The knowledge that the new digital SAT has shorter passages for the reading and writing section, along with just one question per passage, may have you feeling more confident about what seems to be an easier test. Shorter does not necessarily mean easier, and it's important to note that walking in with that level of unearned confidence could end up costing you precious time and points on the test. With text completion questions, it is crucial that you don't associate short with easy. You want to be able to apply proper strategies to get to the main idea and supporting details as quickly as possible so you can answer the questions confidently. And that's what we're here to do today. My name is Will. I'm with Principia Tutors and Consultants, and let's jump into some text completion strategies. So today we're going to find how to identify these topics, how to complete them using our strategies, and we'll go through some practice problems. All right, so your basic approach when you're dealing with text completion content on your DSAT reading and writing. Look for the phrasing, which choice most logically completes the text. It's important to note logically because we want to continue from that main idea or a supporting detail. Annotation is crucial here. You do have the annotation tools built in to your online platform, but if it helps, you can also take quick notes on scratch paper, whatever works best for you. It's just important to annotate. We want to identify the main idea and supporting details. Look for those transition words, so the continuers, cause effect, and contradictors. And you want to try to fill in the blank based on how you understand the question. So the main idea, these other strategies can help us get to this should go next logically. This proceeds logically given the information. And we'll introduce something called a QDPIES strategy that can help you locate these important details and elements. So you might have never heard of it. So what is a QDPIES strategy? So each letter in this acronym represents a different element to note and identify as you read a passage. Q for quotation marks and question marks. So that would include dialogue and question marks, quotation marks used for emphasis. The D for dates, times, and dashes. So it's important to note when you see these people, places, and parentheses. That's where the P comes in. I is for italics, and when you see I or the use of first person pronouns. E, exclamation points, and any other emphasis not accounted for by the parentheses, italics, or quotation marks. And finally, the S represents shifts, transitions, tonal shifts, and then perspective or point of view shifts. So if you note that you're going from first to third person, you're shifting between characters who are speaking, if it goes from a positive to a negative tone, or vice versa, and then transitions. So the words to look for, like the continuers, the cause effect words, and the contradictors. And so a passage may not feature all of these elements, but many important pieces of information can be found at or near these elements when they do appear in a passage. The main idea among them. And so, after you apply your QDPIE strategy to identify the main idea and supporting details, this is when you want to look at your answer choices closely. Eliminate anything that's logically flawed or doesn't have information to support it from the passage. Look for words and phrases that appear both in the passage and answer choices. These are ones that you'll want to scrutinize further, at least hold off eliminating until you've ruled out other less viable answer choices. These words and phrases, and it's important to note that they can be synonymous. They don't have to be direct repeats of one another. So make sure you've brushed up on your vocabulary so you can recognize synonymous phrasing. And whenever possible, create your own brief summary to compare with your answer choices. As we'll show in some examples, it doesn't have to be a complete sentence. It can be in whatever quick shorthand works for you. Remember, no one else is going to check it. So if you understand it and it works for you, go ahead and do it. So let's do this guided problem. Take a moment, pause the video, read through it, and then you can unpause and we'll tackle it together. All right, so some important things to note are the presence of these names and transitions. So first, we see F. Scott Fitzgerald and Zelda Fitzgerald, and then we see that important transition, but that is a contradictor and it's introducing the main idea of the passage, where it's many don't recognize Zelda as a writer in her own right. From there, we see a continuer transition, developing the idea that was previously introduced in that sentence with the but in it. Then we see thus. That's a cause-effect transition word. So viewing Zelda as just inspiration for F. Scott's writings is the cause of some effect. And seeing as that's where the blank is, that's going to be how we want to fill in the blank logically. And so last things, we want a simple summary of the main idea in the passage. So an example would be like Zelda Fitz wrote her own works. You might say ZF, not just FS wife or co-writer. Anything that lets us know that Zelda as her own individual author is our main focus. And so now this should make reaching the logical completion a lot easier. So looking at choice A, saying overlook that many factors that motivated F. Scott to write, we should just get rid of that. A is wrong because it doesn't keep the focus on Zelda. Looking at B, risk misinterpreting full range of Zelda's contributions to literature, that looks like a really good answer choice. It maintains the focus on Zelda and explains a possible consequence of not viewing her as her own individual writer. And it ties back into many don't recognize her as a writer in her own right. So hold on to B, don't eliminate it. Looking at choice C, this is showing F. Scott and Zelda. Problem with that is we are splitting the focus between both of them, where the main idea of the passage focuses on Zelda. So C is out. Finally, looking at D again, F. Scott and Zelda being the focal point here, not in keeping with the main idea of the passage, maintaining focus on Zelda. Gets rid of D, leaving us with B as our correct answer. All right, moving on. For these DSAT style practice questions, I want you to pause the video and attempt to answer it on your own. We'll pick up in a few seconds and go through how we can tackle it. All right, so what are some of those QDPIE elements that we can identify? So first, look at those contradictor transitions. We have but and while. We have a date time for the 19th century. And then a simple summary of this passage would be diamond rings are younger than engagement and wedding rings. We can see that where it even says engagement diamonds less than 2 centuries old. So whatever your simple summary is, just make sure you focus on engagement and wedding rings have existed longer than adding diamonds to these rings. And so if we go to the final sentence and we want to complete it logically, we have length of marriage contrasting with likely the length of using diamond rings to represent engagement in marriage. And so we can eliminate any choice that does not feature that focus on diamonds being younger. And so looking at A, it's not that engagement rings are the new inclusion, it's that diamonds are the new inclusion to engagement rings. So A is an incorrect relationship association, so we can eliminate it. If we look at B, social association, diamond, engagement, wedding rings, relatively novel, knowing that novel means newer, we can keep B. It looks like a pretty good answer, but we always want to eliminate other choices so we can confidently select what we believe to be right. So if we go to C, rose gold, silver, carbide, tungsten, etc., these are not brought up anywhere in the passage. It's completely off topic, so we should immediately eliminate it. And then looking at D, where it's focusing on costs, engagement, wedding rings, it does mention adding diamonds to the bands, so that is tangentially related to the passage, but nowhere else in the passage are we mentioning the cost of weddings. And so D is just off topic or only slightly relevant, leaving us with B as the correct answer. All right, one more. Take a moment, pause the video, attempt to answer it on your own, and we will look at it and answer it together in just a moment. Okay, so what are some important things to note here using our QDPIES strategy? So first off, look at these dashes. Dashes can often be used for emphasis, or they can at least draw our attention to a main idea. Here, the whole aspect, this concept of pirates burying treasure being severely misleading, that's right around where the dashes are, so it can help draw our attention to it. We have names, so Robert Louis Stevenson, Long John Silver, so it's good to note that because again, they're also around the important element That is the main idea. So, quick summary or a simple one: most or all pirates burying treasure is misleading. And so we would know that this is a rare or possibly non existent practice that was made up. So, as we look for logical completion, we want to emphasize how it's misleading by providing a relevant example. So, if we look at A, every pirate burying their treasure, that would dispute the argument that pirates burying treasure is misleading. So, if it would refute the argument, it's not a logical conclusion. We get rid of A. Looking at B, Long John Silver not even burying his treasure. Okay, we have a pirate who doesn't bury his treasure, but it mentions that in the actual passage, Long John Silver emphasized the concept of burying treasure. And so that would refute the passage again. That's one strike against it. Another, if you note that Long John Silver is fictional, it's not going to be a very helpful example to support or refute an argument about real piracy. Looking at C, it's giving us an example of the only pirate known to have buried their treasure. This would be an exception to the rule, so a very useful piece of information to support the author's claim. So C is looking really strong. C looking strong doesn't mean we just pick it immediately, though. We want to be able to eliminate D, then pick C confidently. Looking at D, the mention of opting to divide their treasure between captain and other members of the crew neither supports nor refutes this argument. In fact, it's the most off topic of our answers right now, so we should eliminate it on those grounds, leaving us with C as our correct answer. All right, quick recap for text completion strategies. Read and annotate the passage. Identify the main idea and any supporting details by applying your QDPIES strategy. Write brief, simple summaries of your passages. Note any special transitions, the continuers, cause effect, contradictors. Use your summary to search for keywords and phrases in your answer choices that can closely match your own summary. Eliminate choices that do not complete the text logically. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Hoping you're feeling a lot more confident about how to tackle these question types on your official DSAT. And if you are feeling more confident about it, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and check out our other videos in the DSAT playlist. With that, I'm Will with Principia Tutors and Consultants, signing off.